Welcome to Les Schwab Tire Center's Outdoor GPS, presented by Fisherman's Marine and Outdoor.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Owen Hayes. It is September 2nd, 2023. I'm losing my mind. Today is the opening day of elk season here in Oregon. I don't know about Washington, but at least here in Oregon, for bow season, elk and deer are now open. And yes, that just shows you how much I love you all, to make sure that we can bring you the most real-time fishing and hunting information anywhere. Outdoor GPS is the only live, interactive fishing and hunting television show that's ever existed, which means that I sometimes miss opening days. Lots of reports coming in this morning, though. We're going to make sure to share those with you today as well. Things have changed a bunch on the Columbia in just the last handful of days. Yes, different closures, different openers, things have just kind of, better be an attorney, right? Keep up with what's going on the Columbia, but the fishing is good everywhere. We're going to talk about that as well here in our field report segment coming up. Going to absolutely have to show you what happened yesterday at Bonneville when you're referring to fish counts, right? We talked about this last week, getting a little bit nervous. Numbers were still staying, 3,000, 4,000 a day going over Bonneville. Well, that has changed significantly. Cross your fingers that it holds out. Again, much like we mentioned last week, we need to have several days in order to keep from, people that make suspect decisions from closing things down early. Well, now the question is, is there an extension out there? Most likely not, but we'll see how things are going. We'll talk about that here in just a little bit. Have my report from this week, chasing some fish around. Got out a couple times, fishing's good. A lot of you kind of followed along with that. On Monday, when I took Andy Carson out for Andy's Adventures, that went kind of crazy for all of you out there. We appreciate that support by all means. But from Monday on, things really got interesting again. We will cover that. We'll have the fish counts for you with the 10-year average. Again, that'll be, finally exciting, right? We'll talk about also chasing some doves yesterday. Opening day for bird season here in Oregon on the 1st, pretty much everywhere, I think, nationwide even. But I'll let you know how that kind of went for me. Things changed quickly after all that rain on Thursday. But again, we got some interesting weather forecast coming up. I think perfect, really. We'll talk with Katie Suniga in just a little bit, get that updated weather for you that you can make your plans for going forward. Again, doesn't matter if you're going to be hunting or fishing. There are some very good things coming to look forward to when you're referring to weather, and Katie will, of course, enlighten us on that. Special guest in the studio for 2, 3, maybe even 4 different great reasons. I've got Jared Higginbotham and his son Hunter from Yakima Bait. They're here in studio. We're going to talk about the buy 3, get 1 free deal. And of course, with things exploding right now on the Columbia and some of the options that we have going forward with our silver fishery, or for you young folks, coho out there, we got a lot of great things that are happening in this buy 3, get 1 free deal from Fisherman's and Yakima Bait. It's perfect. And from what I understand, Jared, Fisherman's is loaded up with all of them. Yes, so get over there, make sure you get them all before things get into full swing. One I want to talk to him about is the twitching jig, the twitcher that they've got available, the design of that. You've got some really interesting options. I think we've learned in the last couple of years when you're referring to twitching that it just doesn't work in small streams or in very specific situations. They work a lot of different places that you might think is not possible, even the saltwater, believe it or not. So we'll talk about that with Jared here in a little bit. We're also going to have the Chevy Silverado Tech Tip of the Week, and I think maybe that's where I'll piggyback with Jared here and talk about some of these options. I know he's got a very interesting way that he likes to target silvers with spinfish going forward here. Things are going to get very, very busy. So go fishing. Hunting sucks. Don't do that. Sorry. That's me being selfish. Also, Deal of the Week from Fisherman's Marine, which is always a good one. All right, do we have time to take a quick call? Jake is from Goldendale. Looks like he's got a question about Andy. I'm assuming Andy Carson. Everybody loves Andy Carson. Ryan, did you know that? Everywhere we went, everyone was, Andy. I'm like, well, hi. Jake, what do you got going on?
Deal of the Week from Fisherman's Marine, which is always...
Jake, can you hear me, bud?
All right, do we have time to take a quick call?
All right, go ahead and put him back on hold. He's not listening to us. All right, everybody takes the time to send in some photos. I want to show you some of yours. If you've been sending some of your photos in, it's easy to do. I'll also show you how that you can do that. There's a dandy right there. Brody's first salmon. Nice fish, too. Now, I'm not getting a very good angle there, but that kind of looks like a silver to me. Anyway, great photo, and it's always cheating when you got the kids involved, and I steal it, too. Oh, you're killing me. That is the one place that will get me out of the woods right now is the Deschutes, period. I mean, y'all know me. I love to chase salmon around everything else, but it's hunting season. I would give up a day to be on the Deschutes. Man, I bet you it's pretty good. The numbers going over Bonneville have been great this year in comparison to the last handful of years. Anyway, Stacy's first coho. Yeah, it looks like a coho. Definitely a nice photo. Thanks for sending that in. There's certainly some options that are out there. We're going to talk more about silvers going forward, of course, just because of some of the... that was caught right there in the Columbia, right outside of the mountain. No, I'm just teasing. There has been quite a few. Now, this is interesting. Okay, this year, there's been a lot more fish, pelagics, that have been caught. Each year, there's always, some different species that seem to get caught. But this year... it is really kind of interesting to see multiple Dorado like that get caught. Blue marlin, bluefin tuna, opas. I mean, there's been some very interesting fish caught out there, and that was a great photo. You don't get to see that off the Oregon coast often. Todd, nice chicken right there. That is looking delicious. That's my favorite size of halibut, period, right there. Most delicious. While it's still twitching, fillet that thing up and batter it and start eating. Best thing ever. Maybe even better than a walleye. There's people throwing stuff at the TV for me even saying that right now. Anyway, here's how you can do it. It's the Fox 12 app. It's super simple. Download it. Of course, you want to find outdoor GPS, but it'll also give you the ability to download photos and video. Don't be shy with that. I keep bugging Ryan each week. Get me some video. Let's show some video from some of our fans out there. And for those that do that, we appreciate it. Maybe even you guys. You guys are filming constantly. Send something in. That way we can really show off some Yakima bait products. But it's easy to do, so make sure you do that. We'd love to have that opportunity to show you off. Now, I'm going to give it one more try. Do we got Jake? Jake from Goldendale. Jake, can you hear us?
Hello, can you hear me?
I got you. Looks like you got a question. Okay. When we were fishing with Andy, what's going on?
When you were fishing with Andy down there below Bonneville, you had your plug down at the bottom or halfway up in the water?
Actually both. So in that area, it's not very deep, right? I mean, you can get in much deeper water when you get closer to the middle of the river. Say that again?
It was 25 feet, I see on your fish finder.
Yes, sir. So that's the line that typically you try to stay in. If you get outside of that, you get into some very fast current, and it's difficult to maintain. And this goes for everywhere, not just up there. But if you're going to uphill troll in particular, you have to take those things into consideration, right? On how fast you're going. Are you going to be ending up going downriver? Basically back trolling because the current's too quick to make and still get the right rotation on those splashers. So, yes, up there, right on the bottom, if at all possible. And it's a little bit of a fine line to walk, right? If you're going to uphill, again, anywhere, and keep your gear related to the bottom, you really need to pay attention as the captain of the boat, whoever's running it, that you keep your speed consistent, because it just takes a half a second. You let up and your gear hits the bottom, especially up there, it's over. You're at least losing your lead, let alone your gear. So it's a very fine line to walk. But yes, we'll actually fish them in the water column halfway up, and we'll make sure that some of them are right on the bottom, and we catch them both ways. It just depends on what they're doing at the dam and what the fish are really doing, right? So if that water is getting chopped off and there's not a lot of flow, you will see that some of those fish start to gravitate away from the bottom. Not always, but you'll notice them on your fish finder that they will come up. But when that water is actually dumping and the fishing becomes very difficult anyway, they're going to be on the bottom. I mean, scraping the deck. So make sure you keep it down there. Jake, I hope that helps you out in some way. All right, let's go ahead and cut to a quick break. When we come back, we're going to have our field report from this week. It was finalizing things for bow season. I could literally leave right now. That's sad. I got 2.5 weeks before I can even leave. That's bad. Also, a report from Fishing with Andy Carson, like we've already mentioned. We'll talk a little bit about fishing on the Columbia and tuna fishing we kind of alluded to, and how things went for me and my daughter yesterday for our first trip out of 2023 chasing some birds. We'll be right back with more Outdoor GPS.